Yeah, so 131, you have your problem, you bring 3 solutions, and then you bring your recommended solution.
I'm instilling that tomorrow.
It's fantastic. People don't love it because it makes them
Critically think.
but long term it makes them learn from that problem, and they don't have to come up with 3 solutions because they know the answer going forward, right? So we implemented this a couple years ago because it got to a point where, and I also learned this from cold calling lawyers and my managers just not giving me the answer and I'm getting frustrated. Like if I knew the answer, I wouldn't come to you. Well, that's not what it's about. It's about you figuring out the problem, coming up with your solution, and then you learn from it and you grow from it. And it really helps them more than it helps us. It's a lot easier for me to give the answer than to say 131 because I can give the answer and move on with my day. Versus 131, they're coming in with 3 solutions, they're proposed, I have to read through that, all that stuff. It's more time, but in the long
More time
term,
for you in the long run. It's more investment in them to make sure they
Exactly.
can figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know if it's a skill set some people just do not have. My frustration is with people that constantly have a big problem with like everything. And for me, the answer is like so simple for me, but it's like, why didn't you think about, it's like they almost concentrate on the negative. And it's a problem. But you guys are, as you get more and more employees, it's going to be harder for you to do hands-on with every single person.
For sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, you can't force people to do things that they just won't ever do. And unfortunately, they're not going to be a fit for our company, right? Like, if they're not willing to buy into our culture, buy into the right way to do things, it's time to move on. And unfortunately, that's just the name of the game. And we're working with, TSCG is working with the top 2% of lawyers in the world. Like the ones who can afford to spend the money it takes to acquire cases, all this good stuff. We have to have the top 2% of people. We have to be elite. We're working with elite. We have to be
how are you finding these elite? How are you hiring in that space? Because right now I assume, you're doing so much marketing acquisition for lawyers, and you guys are one of the best in the nation to do it. But it's hard with that, sometimes I think a limited talent pool or ones that people are always pulling out of. And there's probably a lot of folks that want to jump ship to do the next one because they think they can get paid more at the next opportunity.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Like my own buddies are jumping from job to job to job to job because they're like, oh, well, I'm getting a better signing bonus over here. And, I worked there for a year, work here for a year. Now a new trend is people are working multiple jobs that they could work from home, and they have 3 employers and they're just taking in a lot of money. It's a huge problem hiring. We had, like you said in the beginning of the show, I've hired people that I know, I trust, I love. They've hired people that they know, trust, love. And we've really grown that way. And it is tough because eventually you're going to run out of people. But
so do you delegate the hiring to some of the people underneath you for the people that are underneath them?
Sure.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I always think that's a no-brainer, but a lot of people feel like, I know CEOs like, I got to know every single person. It's got to be my hire. And I'm like, no, that's not your hire because you're not working with them. So let somebody else make that hire.
Yeah. I trust everybody I work with tremendously. One of the best moves we made was about 3 years ago now, 4 years ago when Camp Lejeune craze happened. We had more money than we know what to deal with. Everyone's just like, here's $1 million, here's $1 million, here's $1 million. I need cases.
Well, but understand, like, just a lot of our listeners and viewers just don't understand what that space is. So when you're talking about mass torts and what it's like in the landscape, give everybody a broad picture of what it's really like when people are trying to do mass torts.
Yeah. So Camp Lejeune, contaminated water caused cancer to a crazy amount of people. I don't even know the number, but.
And this is in North Carolina.
This is in North Carolina, Marine base, and everyone that heard about it, it was like in the process of getting the law passed, so where the government is going to hand out money to make up for this terrible thing.
And without that, like, you have to literally have a government, well, almost like a statute for the right to sue the federal government to be able to make it right.
Yeah.
Or else they have immunity.
Right. So government opened that up, and they said, we're going to give billions and billions of dollars back to these people. And obviously a plaintiff lawyer sees that, and they go, oh, so the government's guaranteeing a check to all these affected individuals. Okay, sign me up. That's probably one of the safest plays you could be at a mass tort lawyer, a guaranteed sum of money, admitted fault. So it was wild, wild west. Anybody that wanted to get in, they wanted to spend as much possible money as they could. From a marketing standpoint, we were really, really early, which was great. So we got all kinds of cases, crazy, cheap cases. But then it got to a point where people kept wanting to spend, and we needed more people, we needed better people, we needed to beat everyone else that was advertising for these. And dollars, just an ad creative.
So are you almost all digital? How are you guys?
All digital.
All digital.
Yeah. We do some kind of podcast advertising, stuff like that, but mostly digital. So I called my buddy up and I was like, I saw the opportunity. I was like, this space in general is massive. Like, this is a huge opportunity. And he worked for Whataburger's home office at the time. He was like a couple steps down from sea level. And I was like, hey man, like, he was my RA in college, close friend. And I was
Your
like,
RA?
Yeah.
How are you close friends with your RA? Oh, because you probably had to get yourself out of trouble a lot. Yeah, I get it.
He was a little bit lenient with me, but great guy. And I called him. I was like, we need you. And he's like, yeah, actually, I'm not super happy here. I would consider it. So we talked about it, and then he called me back like a week later. He's like, listen, man, I told them, they like gave me a raise that I could not refuse. And he's like, I'm not even going to ask you to match that. And then 3 weeks later, I call him and I'm like, listen, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. Like, just get your ass over here. He came, he brought multiple different employees, and that's been just a huge game changer for our business. And that's kind of the whole hire people you trust model. And I know he's super smart. I knew he would work his ass off with me, and he has. And it's great because, like, when I know I can trust someone, he's not just going to show up and get a paycheck. He cares about the business. He cares about me. He cares about us being successful. Same with my brother. Same with my best friend that we hired on our who runs our sales team now. And it's pretty cool. It's risky, right? Because you hire a friend and it goes bad, and you may not be friends at the end.